Good evening, everyone. We are so delighted to be with you this evening and glad that you are here to learn more about the exciting field of clinical research and the many career opportunities within that field. My name is Amy Evans, and I am joined by two of our amazing instructors this evening, Micah Werner and Narvel. Sorry, Narvel.
Delabriere.
Thank you, Delabriere. Um, always learning. They are going to be with us and sharing a lot about the field and their knowledge. And we're going to dive right in. First, I'm going to share just a few ground rules with you, kind of setting the stage for this evening. As you heard, the session is being recorded. I will share the recording out with everyone either later tonight or early tomorrow, so that if you didn't catch something, you'll have a chance to rewatch that or share it with others who might also be interested in it. We do love getting to see who we're talking to, so if you're at all comfortable to put your video on, it's so much nicer to be sharing information with faces out in the world rather than just black screens, but we certainly understand if you can't do that. There will be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, so we would certainly invite you to, at the very least, show yourself and unmute your video at that time. But before then, we ask you to please keep your microphones muted. And if you do have some questions that you want to either capture that we can revisit at the end, or that you just want to get answered as quickly as possible, you can go ahead and use the chat feature, and one of the three of us, if we can, we will answer those questions, and at the very end we will go through to make sure we did address anything that you might have had. So with that, let's get started with some introductions. My name is Amy Evans, and I am one of the training coordinators with the Portland Community College Institute for Health Professionals. I have had a long background in health, starting with community health education. I did work in cardiac rehab. I was a massage therapist and have done a lot of work in integrated healthcare. I've also worked in workforce development. So this role really is a beautiful merging of many skill sets to where I can now help other people enter the healthcare field and grow professionally in these fields. We'd love to hear more about Narvel.
So my name is Narvel Delabriere, and thank you, Amy. And I am a new instructor here at PCC, and I am looking forward to helping others within, getting their footing in clinical research. My background is clinical research. I have about 15 years experience, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about that during today's presentation. And my educational background, I have a bachelor's of science in public health and a master's of science in clinical research administration. So I really like clinical research, and I'm just really excited to share this information with you guys.
Thank you so much. We are so honored and delighted to have you join our team of instructors. So thank you for all that you will be sharing.
Thank you.
Micah.
Hello, welcome. My name is Micah Werner, and I think this is my 4th course teaching. So I have a couple sessions behind me. It's super fun. I'm glad you guys are here and are interested. I am currently a regulatory and compliance coordinator at Kaiser Permanente Northwest. But I got my research start, like most people do, just on the job training. I was hired as a clinical research coordinator for a private clinic in Northwest Portland many years ago, 25. I worked as a coordinator for several years. I've worked with an IRB for several years at the Portland VA, hopped over to OHSU and worked as a project manager there for research, and have been with Kaiser for about 6 years. Love it. And I have a bachelor's degree in English from many moons ago, and then more recently got my master's in research administration. And we're delighted to have you here. Hopefully we will be able to answer all your questions tonight. There we go.
Thank you so much, Micah. Yes. Here we go, indeed. So just a little background. The Portland Community College Institute for Health Professionals has developed and continues to provide a wide variety of health-related trainings. We have integrated healthcare trainings in functional nutrition, herbalism, and Ayurveda yoga, all of which prepare participants and graduates for national certifications. We host the suite of American Heart Association classes to help people stay current and licensed in all heart-related practices there. We have dental assisting program and a variety of entry-level health trainings to help people start off their healthcare careers. We also offer special training, such as the Foundations of Clinical Research, that serves to both help people enter the field of clinical research or skill up as existing healthcare providers to be able to focus some of their current work within clinical research. So know that you are well supported, and being part of a community college gives you a lot of access to other resources, libraries, student support services, career services, all kinds of things, so that you are held very well throughout both your time getting into the PCC program, working with the instructors throughout the program, and then once you graduate, if you do need some support and other resources, we have those available. With that, we're going to learn a little bit about more why to enter the field of clinical research.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So we have listed here a variety of reasons that people choose to enter the field of clinical research. And I'll just share for myself, I entered clinical research because I really enjoy the opportunity that clinical research affords you. So for example, for myself, I started off at a cardiovascular clinic working directly with patients, and I moved over to a gastroenterology clinic working with phase 1 healthy patients. And then I transitioned to a hospital, a children's hospital, working in clinical research there. And I was in a higher role. So I wasn't working, I started there working with patients, but I moved up and I started working with contracts and budgets. And so I just got a lot of opportunity to be able to transition because the scope of clinical research is so vast. And today I work remotely from home, and I work for a medical device company. And so I get to work across geographies in the US and outside of the United States with different personnel. And I really enjoy just the scope and the changes that I've been able to pursue in clinical research because of the field itself and the opportunities that you're afforded. So that's a great reason why you should consider clinical research, but even more so, I'll say a big reason for me when I got into the field, and reason why I stay in the field, is because the work that you do is so integral and so critical in helping to bring life-saving products to patients who are in need. And knowing when you get a product on the market, it's such a feeling of joy that you contributed to something that could make a difference in people's lives. So hopefully with that short spiel, I've sold you on clinical research, and I'll turn it over to Micah to dive into more of the roles that are out there in clinical research.
That was great, and I could not have expressed more enthusiasm if I tried. And I agree with everything Narvel just said. So this slide lists a number of research roles. And if you were to have 2 or 3 different clinical research professionals sitting in a room describing the roles of their colleagues and who they work with, the job titles might be a little bit different. The study activities might be a little bit different. So this is definitely a snapshot. Sort of the general So there's just a lot of work that goes into clinical research. So clinical research assistant or coordinator is a jack of all trades in the industry. So your clinical research assistant or coordinator may help with regulatory pieces of research. They may see participants. They may do study visits. They may do a little bit of everything. They work with the principal investigators. They work with the sponsors. They tend to be sort of the glue that holds a lot of it together. Data managers are the individuals who record the data into whatever the sponsor data system is. So bigger picture, whatever your interest is, there's probably a role that you could find in clinical research that would support that interest. For example, I would not be a good data manager. My interest is not in transcribing. And data management is difficult. It takes a certain mind frame. It takes a lot of expertise. But what you're doing is you're taking the information from the participants, what information was learned during their visits and their participation, transcribing it in a way that is useful for the sponsor. These days, that's an electronic system. There's lots of back and forth between the sponsor and the site about getting the data entered correctly. It requires a very specific type of person to do it well, very detail oriented, but no patient interaction. You're not dealing with participants. So if that's something that you're interested in, you'd want to be a research coordinator or a project manager, or a research RN, which is at the bottom, but that would require more education. We at Kaiser have project managers, and I know that other research institutions don't have project managers. So that might be something that Narvel uses in her work, but doesn't use in her work, but we do in ours. But there's always going to be contract and finance people because there are agreements between the sponsor and the site. Budgets require people that are expertise in budget negotiations. My regulatory role is making sure that we are following the rules, both federal regulations, local institutional policies, state regulations, and then making sure that when we screw up or we find out that we're not working within the lines of regulations, how do we rectify it? How are we ready for FDA audits? So there are lots of pieces to those kinds of roles. Clinical research lead or specialist. We don't use that term in my office. So Narvel might be able to speak a little bit more closely to what that means in her world. Auditor would be somebody that's coming in to check the work, to make sure that you're following the study protocol, documenting things correctly, monitoring. Trials sponsor monitors are similar. They are also coming in to check your work in a supporting role to make sure that you are carrying out the study in the way that you're supposed to be. And then nurses, for example, we do oncology research at Kaiser. So we have oncology nurses that are trained in research, and they understand all the bells and whistles that go along with research, and they see our research participants. So just a tremendous amount of collaboration between all of these roles, a lot of overlap, and really it's a career path that can cater to all kinds of interests and skill sets. And as Narvel mentioned, there's definitely opportunities to transition from one role to another as you get your experience and as you fine tune what you're interested in doing.
Yeah, and Micah, I couldn't have said those better. I would just step back, and for those who, when you gave your perspective, I think it is spot on. And I would just add that for those of you who do not know, the site is like a Kaiser Permanente site that Micah was speaking to that she works at. And that's from a general perspective, we consider the term site to be where the patient is coming and interacting with the physician, the doctor, and the clinical research personnel. So they're the front-facing part people with the study participant, and they're typically collecting the data that then is coming to, in the role that I'm currently in, to the sponsor. So Micah would be speaking to a site role, and those are your physician clinics and your hospitals typically. They can serve in a sponsor role in some aspects, but in general, they are sites, and there's some great opportunities. Things are a little, these roles and that we listed, we were talking about this during our discussion on what's listed here, and at many different places, you'll find that these terms, these titles have different meanings. So it's really important for you to look at any job descriptions and understand what that means for that job. Because, for example, data manager, Micah explained it, is the person who transcribes the data at the site. At the sponsor, that is a person who actually is building that database that information is then being entered into from a site's perspective. So they're in a very similar capacity in the work environment, that they are really siloed workers by themselves. They interact with the study team, but they would be in a more complex role in that they're building the study database in line with the regulations, and setting the system up for what you actually would see for the data that needs to be entered. So just wanted to add some more flavor there, that to what Micah was sharing, and that there's so many opportunities. And one thing I didn't say on my last slide was clinical research is not shrinking. It is a field that is growing, and there's so much opportunity, and all of these roles, they're continuing to be needed and in high demand. So yeah, just add that.
Thank you both so much. You know, as I was learning and helping put this program together, I was amazed by all of the specializations and the opportunity for everyone's individual passions to find a niche, find a home, to be able to grow and then, as you said, transition to the next level of what people would like. So it's a really dynamic field, and as you mentioned, much in demand. We're going to next talk here a little bit more about helping. Is this right for you? What are some of the characteristics and qualities that make for great people who enjoy working in the field?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I do think that clinical research, there's a spot for any kind of personality and any kind of interest, but it can be, at least from a site perspective, and it may be different at Narvell's perspective, but I'm doubtful. I think it's probably pretty fast-paced everywhere. It can be. COVID-19 launched us into like a super fast-paced world that was unique. But typically, things are happening. We're very busy. Being detail-oriented would go into any role. So if you're not a detail-oriented person, I guess maybe there isn't a role for you. Documentation is imperative. Being able to clearly document the history of something. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. Being detail-oriented in terms of policies and procedures and regulations. There's just a lot of things that oversee how clinical research is conducted at a site, how sponsors behave. So lots of bells and whistles that need to be followed. It's challenging. There are moments of being bored, but they're few and far between. And as Narvell mentioned, it is very fulfilling. I am a self-described dork. Like, I have found my niche. I cannot advocate for clinical research more and sound like a sane person. Like, my enthusiasm is genuine. I find it to be fulfilling to work with my colleagues when we collaborate. It's truly like you might be one person and a lot of people doing one project, and you're just one person, but your role is important. Analytical, some positions are more analytical than others, like data management might be more analytical if you're doing data analysis. There's definitely roles that are geared toward analysis, and just being very critical thinking is required. And it is ever changing, as we learned with COVID most acutely. Sponsors and teams can be faced with instances where they need to pivot what they're doing. And as new research develops new treatments or new devices, that sort of the next phase of what that medication or what that device is going to look like builds upon what's learned previously. So it's just, things happen. And if you're fortunate enough to get in a role like I have, I work with an oncology team, I work with a delivery system team, and I work with a clinic team that all do different kinds of research. So it's just all very busy and interesting. And I think it's a very engaging field.
It's so much. Seems like a field where people are able to learn a lot and grow. And while you're speaking, I also thought of one other change that I've heard a lot more of, and that is flexibility in workplace. So it seems like a lot of people are able to work from home, at least part-time, if not full-time, or be able to go in and work with the team in person. So it helps support different personalities and needs for work environments. And speaking of work environment, let's explore some of the places where different types of employers work.
Research you'll find it in all sorts of places, as evidenced by this slide. I'm in Portland, so just to give examples, like Oregon Health and Science University, OHSU, is a research hospital. So there's all kinds of research, from bench lab, so like science in a lab with microscopes, to clinical trials that involve humans, pharmaceutical companies, device companies, so functioning as the sponsor versus the site, as Narvel described. The Veterans Administration does research. I worked for the VA IRB for 7 years. Medical offices, my first job was in a private medical clinic that specialized in genital herpes research. So like there really is, like there's all kinds. Clinical research organizations are employers. They're contracted by sponsors to help run trials at clinical sites. So, and I also feel like we are using a lot of language that's specific to clinical research. So there's a huge vocabulary, which this program would help sort of unpack. So I apologize if we are using terms that aren't necessarily in your language. Government has jobs, whether it be with the FDA as an auditor, or as a regulatory specialist, or with a department of, I don't know, there's just everywhere. You could work for an IRB. There are central IRBs and local IRBs. You would learn the difference between those. But you could serve on, like, IRBs are the institutional review boards, and they oversee the safety, the ethics. They're really there to make sure that clinical trials are run ethically, and that the safety and well-being of participants is at the forefront. So there's just all kinds, and it is opening up wider now because of the opportunities to work remotely. I think that's made a big difference now in terms of who you may be employed by. It's not necessarily local to where you are. It could be elsewhere if you work remotely.
I feel like even on this, like, the key takeaway is that it's wide, the field is wide, and if you did like a Google search, you're going to come up with all types of, or even if you put it in LinkedIn or one of the job searches, they'll come up with like a full, endless pages of opportunities with the jobs, because for each of these, we could add sub bullets for medical institutions to go through all of the ologies, cardiology, nephrology, all the ologies that you can think of, pharmaceutical companies, just to give some examples there. You have many that you guys already use, Advil and all types of pharmaceutical companies that are out there, biopharmaceutical vaccines that are out there. All of these are companies that would then have a research component so that they can continue to increase their scope of work. Device companies. So I work in medical device, and I'll even say here there could be subs because I started working in medical device again in the, I say ologies because like at the end of every specialty you have ology. So all the specialties, I started working in peripheral vascular, and then I moved to neurovascular. And now I work for an in vitro diagnostic company, which is kind of like a sub under medical, we fall under medical devices, but we run studies that primarily support 510Ks, and it's a whole different division of medical devices. So I think the key takeaway here, and Amy and Micah, feel free to chime in here, is that there's so much opportunity in clinical research, and it's only growing because that CRO field, the clinical research organizations, we now, before we didn't have like, before we were all electronic, now you have all of these like Viva, which is like a clinical trial management system with filing of your documents. We have e-consents, we have randomization. So all of these are vendors that then would need to have, you know, people within the clinical research realm coming in and working there. And there's all these different opportunities, even under those umbrellas, that people could pursue if you're interested in them. That I'm sure the clinical research background would add greatly to give you that leverage you need to get a job there.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for sharing some of that. There truly has been such an explosion in demand, and as they expressed, this is to delve into research in so many facets. And it is that explosion that is part of why we were requested by our industry partners to create this program. We were really seeking an affordable training program to help onboard people into the field so that they could honestly choose from a lot of our graduates. So about 6 years ago, I think, we started developing this program with Oregon Health Sciences University, Kaiser Permanente, Province Health and Services, and Legacy Health Systems were the key local partners. But in doing this, we actually included an advisory board that was comprised of clinical researchers from across the country. The result was a curriculum that everyone felt was a really strong exposure and gave a lot of the essential information to be able to start working in the field. And as I was told, this was really kind of unique to so many people get in and they're siloed in this particular area, but our program helps prepare everyone for some of those lateral moves and to really understand what is involved in going into other facets of the research so that they had a more comprehensive picture to be able to make informed decisions as they were progressing there. The program is currently taught by 8 experts. All of our instructors come with some of the amazing research background that you have heard from folks today. And we developed this program pre-COVID, if you can believe it. We started the program on Zoom and really had the intention of making it available to participants from across the country. We were committed to having live options for people to be able to get together with classmates and with the faculty so that you could ask your questions live, as well as through email and discussion boards afterwards if things occur to you. And we were also really committed to making it open to a wide variety of students and professionals. We knew that this program would serve people that were curious about the field of clinical research and needed an affordable way to explore whether it was right for them. We also knew that it could help serve people looking to shift careers, as was mentioned, from nursing to more of a clinical nursing focus, and certainly to help people that are looking to skill up and enter this field with a variety of other often health related or research or science related backgrounds there, but not exclusively. So, and it was designed for folks probably like yourself that are interested in a more unique and a fast paced program that be able to it really prepares them to start a new career or advance within an organization. So once you've developed the career, or once you've gotten some of the background, many people are interested in knowing where else you can go with this. So Margot, will you share a little bit more about after they get their certificate from PCC, some of the other opportunities to grow in the field?
Yeah, so there's a variety of different opportunities that you can pursue after this certification. One is, and some that I've pursued is postgraduate work. So there's extension programs at universities that you could pursue. And you could also pursue a master's degree if or a bachelor's degree. Those are also out there in clinical research. So advanced degrees or other certifications that have more advanced level of information. And then there's also two organizations that offer certifications that are widely recognized within the clinical research field. And that's SOCRA, and SOCRA stands for Society of Clinical Research Associates. And they have trainings in different, they have webinars, trainings. They also have trainings that you can attend in person, and these happen throughout the year. They have conferences. They also have, for that advanced certification, they have some prep courses or prep trainings that you could attend as well. I've taken the SOCRA exam before and got certified as a clinical research professional. That's the certification you would get. It is a very straightforward exam, and it's from my experience, and it's strictly pertains to the regulations. So something that definitely would best suit you in going into clinical research, because it would help you really solidify your knowledge in the regulations and why we're doing what we're doing, and what the expectation is. The association, or it's listed here as ACRP, that stands for the Association of Clinical Research Professionals. And that's another organization for clinical research that is highly recognized in the clinical research field. They also have certifications. They have, where SOCRA has one certification that you could pursue, ACRP has certifications for the different levels. So for a clinical research coordinator, clinical research associate, and I believe they also have one for principal investigators. So you can pursue these certifications. Please go to their websites, because I am not a spokesperson for either of these organizations. So please keep me honest, as Anderson Cooper would say, and go to their website. But the key takeaway message here is that there is more advanced opportunities out there that you could pursue. This opportunity with our program gives you that level of knowledge for you to feel really confident going into a position, but these would also advance that knowledge, as well as give you some leverage as you go into these job interviews and maybe continue your growth in clinical research. This is what people in the field are looking for, to really solidify that you have the not only experience, but also that knowledge to support you in your roles. So I'll turn it back over to you, Amy.
Thank you so much. And I think it's important, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's important to share that advanced degrees are not required to be able to enter the field. Some organizations may prefer them, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a degree in clinical research. If you're just showing an aptitude for being able to think critically, and then you add a certificate like ours, you're a very, very desirable candidate. And these advanced certifications that Margot was explaining really are more advanced for for SOFRA, it is not possible to even sit for the certification exam until you have worked in the field for roughly 2 years. So these are much more being shared now to help you see how you can continue to grow in the field, not that these are entry-level requirements.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Amy. And it is a process to even register for the exams, and there is a good cost associated with each of those. I know they constantly change, but the consistent factor for both of the certifications is that you do need to have some level of experience, and you need to have that verified by your CV, or they have some, again, go to their website, but they do have some, if you do have some education, they will waive some of the timeline on what it takes to sit for the exams. But to your point, Amy, you do need to have been in the field and have some experience under your belt to be able to sit for these certifications. And they're not required. I think Micah is a great example. Micah, you've been in the clinical research field and your background is in English, and you're in clinical research, probably because of that detail-oriented nature that you have and your aptitude.
Yes, my path has been a little weird, but I find that most people in the field right now, because haven't been programs like this, got their first job in research sort of haphazardly, and then ended up staying in it because they really liked it. Haphazardly might not be quite the right word, but I never intended to be in clinical research. I sort of fell into it, and it was just all on the job training until I went for my master's.
Thank you. All right, so a little bit more about how our program prepares you to start working in the field.
So as opposed to learning this all on the fly in your new job, not having any kind of background in clinical research, this program is designed to give you a foundation of knowledge that you can build from once you do get employed. For clarity, like for context, there isn't a day that goes by where I'm not asked a question that I don't know the answer to. And I've been in this business for 25 years. So, and which is part of the reason that I like it, because there's complexities and there are nuances, but having the information that's provided in this class would have benefited me greatly as a new research person. And we, from the I was going to say participants, but from the people that have taken this course before, we do see that they are able to get employed as a result of taking this class. So it provides real world experiences. All of the instructors will share they'll give you real world examples while they're teaching. So it isn't just, here's the information. They will also include context and where you apply it in the real world. And I think that's invaluable. You know, you can read information, but to hear somebody's experience with submitting to the IRB or having a conversation with a participant, how do you get consent? That real world piece, I think, is critical, just to sort of help solidify what you learn knowledge-wise. Even people with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, it can be difficult to get hired in clinical research if they have no experience in clinical research. We truly do want people that are ready to work. It can be difficult to train on the job. Again, there's just a lot of foundational knowledge about regulations that if people can come into a position just with the basics, it saves employers a tremendous amount of time and energy in getting those people up and running to be a functional part of the team. And we do use a real oncology protocol in I do these classes. I think it ends up being 2 classes where we review an oncology protocol, really from front to back, you know, it's very involved and very detailed. And it's just a great example of how what is in a protocol. And if you don't know what a protocol is, it's basically it's how a particular study is to be conducted. It provides the background of the research question. It provides the objectives of the study, defines the study activities, includes safety information, just absolutely everything to conduct a study at a clinical site. So it's just a great experience. There are very few opportunities of this kind to prepare you for even just exploring this career path or preparing you for it.
Thank you so much. And I'll add that part of why we chose an oncology protocol, and actually one of the members of our advisory board volunteered to redact an actual protocol from their that they had worked with and gotten permission to do so, to share with us. But we chose the oncology protocol because they are some of the hardest protocols to work with. And we wanted to give our graduates that experience of knowing that these are approachable. You just take them as you can and be guided in that, so that knowing that you can move confidently into interviews and in the workplace, you will be able to dissect and understand elements of any protocol, so she would have done that kind of the oncology world. So I'd love to share with you a few details about the program. This takes 6 months to complete, and this is a cohort-based program. So you will be learning with other students who are also interested in it and are also committing to that 6-month journey together. We offer this program once a year, and we'll be starting this September. As you can see and have heard, we really do a lot to deliver this through Zoom online there. And we embed both the live Zoom sessions with the instructors, along with some recordings of those in case you want to revisit everything. We also have assignments embedded within the platform, and online discussions and questions to keep people engaged in between the sessions. Talked about utilizing actual studies for some of that firsthand experience, and how applicable this really is for people of all backgrounds. One other thing that we developed into the curriculum is 6 hours early on in the program are dedicated to good clinical practice, so that ethics and other elements that are important in training and are required by many organizations to have current GCP or good clinical practice training and exposure. Some organizations will support you in being able to get that, but other smaller clinics and things will not. So that can be a real boost when you're able to speak about that in an interview and demonstrate that you've already completed that, saving the employer some time and being a more viable candidate. We also, for folks in the local area, offer a possible internship. The internships are set, but you would be applying to that organization to be one of their interns. So we're really excited to be expanding that program this year and offering more opportunities. And if you are not in the Portland metro area, our internship partners have offered to provide some best practices and meet with any organization where you might be able to set up your own internship, so that they can share the best practices and how they have best been able to support graduates in getting some experience. And many people find those internships are really long-term, like ongoing job interviews, and then end up getting hired out of those. So a great opportunity that I strongly recommend people either create for themselves or take advantage of what we've already developed. And Marvel's going to share a little bit about some of the higher level of what is covered within the program.
Yeah, so thank you, Amy. So in this program, I think Micah covered this well, in that you're going to get some really good and valuable knowledge from the instructors because of our experience. So you're going to get some information on the history and regulations, as Amy just spoke to, the 6 hours of good clinical practice, which is um, a great speaking point in interviews, and just being able to get exposed to the terminology. I'm sure for those who are not in the clinical research field right now, it sounds like we're speaking a foreign language, and this hasn't even scratched the surface of the acronyms that we could use and understand each other. It is just, it's a different world. And after this class, I'm sure you guys could, after this program, you guys could appreciate it more. But we'll talk about and go through the protocols, the different teams, team members. We alluded to some of those here during today's discussion, but we'll definitely give you more insight in the program. Quality control and essential documents, those are critical in clinical research, because I think somebody said it, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And that is a credo that we live by, because you have to document everything in clinical research, and you do need to be detail oriented, but have balance. And, you know, going through how you're actually running a study, operations, visits, the data and business management, which is really important because you need to make sure that you know, your contract's in place, you have your budget, that you're entering your data so that you can get reimbursed, and from a sponsor end that you're giving, or not get reimbursed, but get paid, because that's an actual pay. But even from a subject perspective, if there is costs associated with subjects coming in for their visits, that you're giving the funds to the subjects appropriately, and that you've done all the work, meaning you've got an IRB approval to do that. And I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but there's you'll get insight into all of these aspects, and most importantly, the reporting, because those adverse event and safety reporting are critical. And we'll talk more about that in the program. But overall, you're going to get some invaluable information that will help set you up to be able to have those discussions as you go in to pursue jobs, and talk about, you know, the knowledge that you would be bringing to this role. And ultimately, the program's goal is to get you ready to actually do work in clinical research. So this is just like a little taste of what you would get in the program.
Thank you so much. One of the things that we conclude the program with is having all of you participate in an IRB meeting or an institutional review board meeting. Really observing that meeting and getting to hear some of the discussions firsthand that are happening as part of preparing and monitoring and caretaking participants throughout the research process. Many of our graduates have really loved how this has helped bring all of what they've been taught through the program together. It's given them insights into who they may be working with, or it's just been really surprising and insightful for many of the students. So we've always had this as a part of the program so that you can meet and see researchers in action live, and get a little bit more understanding of what some of the different organizations are focused on and talking about. And in some instances, pre-COVID especially, it was the first time for people to go physically to an organization, and this was a way that we could help put you in the doors to shake hands and meet with a couple of people. Many of these meetings are now online on Zoom, so you may enjoy the convenience of participating from your home, or you would certainly be welcome to find one that is offered live. But we guide you through all of that process, providing detailed information and support in how to sign up and observe institutional review board meeting. And then there's some questions. You'll be invited to submit a reflection paper that ties into a lot of what you've been learning, and you are welcome to attend one that with our industry partners or the meeting of your choice if you have other places that you would like to be. So I'm going to zip through a little bit of this to make sure we have some time for Q&A. But in completing the certificate, you actually earn 2 certificates. There's a certificate of completion for the entire program, and then there's that good clinical practice certificate that we spoke of as well. So you would receive both of those upon graduation. In total, this counts as 60 CEU hours for continuing education. So if you are a healthcare professional that is licensed and needs to show professional development, this can serve in that capacity for you. Certainly, meeting the faculty, having the internship experience and things can support you with insights into job preparation, things to share in an interview, and potential references as well. We've also have developed a library of different interviews with clinical research professionals and some videos and things that we've done over the years adjacent and related opportunities there. So I share those with you as kind of bonus offerings throughout the program that you can view. And then there is also, once you have graduated from any program or community college, you are invited to utilize our Career Center in any current job search you may have, but you have access to that for life. So guidance on resume writing, interview tips, networking, and information interviews. All of those are available, as well as search resources. I'd like to just share a little bit about the time investment in the program. As I mentioned, it is a 6-month program, and I'm delighted that there are no prerequisites for this program. We used to require medical terminology and anatomy and physiology, but we realized that for people that are exploring this as a field or who may have working knowledge of those, even though they may not have taken formal classes, that we really didn't need to require those. We do encourage you to complete, especially the medical terminology, but ideally both of those classes, or at least have working familiarity with that before applying for a job. I think that will make your chances in your first year of work a lot smoother, but they are not requirements. So please join us this fall if you are interested and don't worry about prerequisites there. This is a college level program, so we do everyone's budget for some study and preparation time. Generally, 1 to 3 hours of study and preparation for every hour of live class is the standard formula. This program is a little bit on the lighter side of that, so most students find that as long as they put in their 2 hours to review the material and do some of the assignments and homework, that they are able to do just fine. But there can be some optional resources, and if you're somebody that really wants to explore a lot of those, we'll invite you to do so. Classes are taught live on Thursday evenings. They start consistently at 5 p.m. The end time is a little bit variable depending on the topic and the module for that particular evening. But I will provide you a very detailed schedule so you will know from the beginning which days we have class and what modules and topics are covered during those times. And then, of course, we've already talked about that you'll be asked to attend an IRB meeting of your choice, and as with any educational program, to complete any assignments, write discussion boards, and connect as required to grow. There is, of course, some financial investment as well with this, and I am really delighted to say that I've advocated and we have been able to keep the tuition for the program the same since the program's inception. So while inflation and everything else have driven things up, we really want this to continue to be as accessible as possible to people. And so the tuition is $1,199, and I've also been able to work with the college to create a special payment plan that spreads that tuition out over the entire 6 months of the program. To qualify for that payment plan, though, you have to work with one individual at the college. She's the only person authorized to set up that payment plan, and that is not her primary job. So because of that, I always encourage people to get registered early and have plenty of time to help work with her to set up that payment plan. Because if she's on vacation or in trainings for a few days, then you're kind of on pause with that. So we want to make sure you build in plenty of cushion to get that all set up. It's a great deal. The special payment plan is 20% down and then equal payments after that for the remaining 5 months of the program. And I believe it is a $25 fee to set that up. It's interest free, and it is what most of those students end up deciding. That said, we also take, we're allowed to accept scholarships that you may have, educational awards, employer funds and assistance there. So lots of ways to support you with that. And as with anything live, what you're doing today, a good webcam and microphone and internet access are also required. And I'm delighted that we do not have any books, so you do not have those expenses in this program. Our instructors have worked to create, provide all of the materials within the program, samples, documents, we've got the oncology protocol, and they bring in a lot of great resources. So you will find all of that housed within the program. For the next steps, it's pretty simple. Complete your application to PCC. It can take 1 to 3 business days typically for you to receive your student ID. And then once you have that ID, you can register using that course registration number that you see on the screen, or CRN. I will email you the link for the application to PCC and the CRN little other registration information along with the recording of this. So no need to take any notes. Once you are enrolled in the class, within a few days, I will send you a welcome letter, and that will contain information on setting up the payment plan and also access to the course itself so that you'll be able to get online and practice and get familiar with the platform. We are going to have an orientation on Thursday, September 21st. That will be with me and all of the other students that are registered for the course. So you'll get to meet everyone, we'll tour the platform and help get you comfortable so that you are ready to go first thing with your instructors the very next Thursday. So with that, any questions? Please raise your hand. For those with the chat, correct. So if you are interested in this program, registration is open right now, and I encourage you to get registered in the next week or two at the latest, so that you have time to get everything set up and be in the system there with plenty of ease. It's a busy time of the year as we gear up for the fall term for all of the staff of the college. So get started early and make things a little bit more smooth for everyone. We typically are, right now we are on a September start for this program, so it runs the fall and winter terms. Let's see, any other questions? Once, twice?
I have a quick question just about homework. So will we be writing papers? Will there be tests at all? Presentations? What is entailed with that after watching the live stream video on it?
Oh, that's a great question. I may default to Micah to start off, and then I can fill in a little bit. Each instructor and each lesson that is held often has different forms of assessment.
Yeah, so I don't know what the other instructors do, but I can give you an example. So there you might have a quiz after a class, so it might be 10 or 20 questions. I have an assignment that's a discussion. So I ask you to initiate a discussion with your classmates, and there's the requirement is to have some engagement, answering some questions like on a specific topic. So there are guidelines for the discussion. So it's a week, you have a week to have the discussion online, and I chime in and conversations like that. What else? I know there's the IRB presentation, so there's a follow-up to the IRB meeting that you attend where I think you write a reflection paper.
Mhm.
I don't know that any of the teachers require a presentation. I don't think there's anything like that.
Okay,
And
No,
there's not a like final exam
okay,
that I know that I'm aware of, and I teach the last class, so there's not a final exam. Okay.
okay,
the IRB serves as that overarching final, like you would
okay,
say, for the program. So
okay,
there are quizzes when you're working with the document. You'd actually be doing some work with those and submitting
Mhm.
that to make sure that you've gained some understanding and get some guidance on any of those that might be needed. Yeah, everything's really designed to assess to make sure that you're gaining the skills necessary to be able to work. And so we're all developed this to be supportive. It's not a gotcha type of thing.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining us. It's been really lovely to visit with everyone this evening and share this information. And I want to give many big thanks to Micah and Narvo for their being with us this evening to share more with you about the field and things. I will send out the recording and some other information within the next 24 hours. I'm also available if you think of other questions that I'll go there and to reach out and ask them. And I'm happy to try to get them answered if I don't know the answer myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.